Okay, so number 27, this bottom one, to estimate the area of the irregular shape, you would count the squares inside that shape. Some of them are pretty like full squares and some of them are half squares. As I count, if it's a full square, of course, count it as 1. And then sometimes I'll combine like 2 partial squares and count that as 1. So for example, right here I have like half a square and half a square. I'll count that as just 1. So 1 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do you get the drift? You just count the squares. If you count them all up, you get about 32 or 33. So just put about 32 is good. And then it would be multiple choice, so you just choose the answer that's closest to whatever you got. Another way to do this would be to find the area of like the rectangle that encompasses that shape, and then subtract the number of squares that aren't in the shape. Depending on what kind of shape they gave you, that might be easier. Okay, next question. Lily, thank you for quietly raising your hand.
You do the one on the top right corner.
Yes. This one here. Okay, find the approximate perimeter of this triangle VEN. For the quarterly assessment, they said that they would have a problem where you have to find the perimeter of a triangle. So here's how you would do this. If it's on a straight edge like that, you can just count the units. So this would be 4 units. For perimeter, you're going to have to add up all the side lengths. So to find this length here, you could use distance formula, but remembering one more formula is kind of a lot. So I prefer to use Pythagorean theorem and sketch out a right triangle. And then I'll use the Pythagorean theorem to find the hypotenuse, which will be this length. So when I sketch out this right triangle, from 7 to -3 is 10 units, and from -4 to 6 is 10 units. So then I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem to find that distance. So 10 squared plus 10 squared equals c squared. You get 100 plus 100 equals c squared. So square root of 200 equals c. So this distance is square root of 200. Not a pretty number, but it is what it is at this point. Then I need to find this distance here. Again, I'm going to sketch out a right triangle. So I can use Pythagorean theorem to find that distance. From -3 to 7 is 10 units. And from -4 to 2 is 6 units. So 10 squared plus 6 squared equals c squared. 100 plus 36. So square root of 36, 136, is this distance here. Now I have to add these 3 numbers up to find the approximate perimeter. It says to round your final answer to the nearest hundredth. So what I'm going to do is find square root of 136, which is 11.66, rounding to the hundredths place. Then here, square root of 200, 14.14, and then for here would just be 4.00. If you add these 3 numbers up, you get 29.80, and that is your answer. Obviously, there was some rounding that went into that. If it was multiple choice, you just choose the one that's closest to what you got. Okay, next one. Logan.
24.
24. What is the distance between the following points? For this, you could use distance formula, but again, I prefer not to write it all out. I'd prefer using Pythagorean theorem. So I need to find the length of this line, the distance between those 2 points. So I'm going to sketch out a right triangle and then use Pythagorean theorem. So these here 3 units, and this is 4 units. So 3 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. 9 plus 16 equals c squared. Square root of 25 is 5. So the distance between those 2 points is 5 units. Drew. This one, midpoint of a segment? Okay, so midpoint would be like the center point of that segment. in order to find midpoint, we do need the coordinates of each point. So point A is at 3, 4, and B is at 8, -4. Now to find the midpoint, you're literally finding the average of these points. So you're going to add the x's and divide by 2 to find the middle, and you're going to add the y's together and divide by 2 to find the middle of the y's. The formula looks like this: x1 plus x2 over 2 and y1 plus y2 over 2. Memorizing the letters is tricky, but if you understand the concept where you're adding the x's, so it would be 3 plus 8 divided by 2, and you're adding the y's, 4 plus -4 divided by 2, it makes it a little bit easier to remember. Then you get 11 over 2, which is 5.5, and 4 plus -4 is 0, 0 divided by 2 is 0, so your midpoint is 5.50.
I got a different way too.
And then once you get that, just make sure that it really does fall in the midpoint, and it looks good to me. Okay, one more. Which one do you want me to go over? None? You good?
I have a question.
Lily?
For the, number 15, are we following your model or the one?
What do you mean? It's not based on, like, for a triangular prism, it doesn't matter whether it's sideways or what, the triangle is still the base. Like, when you're finding the volume of this shape, the base of the triangle, you find the area of the base, the triangle, and then multiply by height. So, yes, this orientation would give you the base. So the base of this is a triangle. Okay, put your name at the top and pass it up.